Hello, my friends, and welcome back. Thank you very much for being with me again today. Obviously, I couldn't have stayed idle and not cover this. I think it's monumental revelation by the director of the intelligence services, director of the national intelligence, Tulsi Gabbard, regarding our political system. And I think the crimes that were conducted by officials, elected and bureaucrats. She came at the White House briefing, and I will feature this video for you, where she's going to say that irrefutable evidence that the Obama administration, Obama and others, participated in, and I will let her explain exactly what. I will tell you what I suspect, what I predict will happen to Tulsi Gabbard. I will explain, or at least I will give you my opinion on why she's doing this, and the genius move by Donald Trump to destroy the Obama and Clinton dynasties. It's about dynasties here. I will explain. So let's watch this speech. It is about 10 minutes long, and then I will speak for about 3 hours. No, we'll see. All right, here it is. Let's start. Come on, baby doll. No, not that one. We don't want that, do we?
Thank you very much. Good afternoon. At President Trump's direction and with the support and coordination with the House Intelligence Committee Chairman Rick Crawford, today we've released a declassified oversight majority staff report that was produced in September of 2020. The stunning revelations that we are releasing today should be of concern to every American. This is not about Democrats or Republicans. This has to do with the integrity of our democratic republic and American voters having faith that the votes cast will count. There is irrefutable evidence that detail how President Obama and his national security team directed the creation of an intelligence community assessment that they knew was false. They knew it would promote this contrived narrative that Russia interfered in the 2016 election to help President Trump win, selling it to the American people as though it were true.
Irrefutable. Remember, this is not about Putin. This is about our system.
It wasn't. The report that we released today shows in great detail how they carried this out. They manufactured findings from shoddy sources. They suppressed evidence and credible intelligence that disproved their false claims. They disobeyed traditional tradecraft intelligence community standards and withheld the truth from the American people. In doing so, they conspired to subvert the will of the American people who elected Donald Trump in that election in November of 2016. They worked with their partners in the media to promote this lie, ultimately to undermine the legitimacy of President Trump and launching what would be a years-long coup against him and his administration. We're here today because the American people deserve the truth, they deserve accountability, and they deserve justice. The records that we released on Friday that were ODNI records, Senator Chuck Grassley's release on Monday of what is known as the Clinton Annex, which was an appendix to the Department of Justice Office of Inspector General's 2018 report, as well as the House Intelligence Committee's majority oversight report that we're releasing today, all come back to and confirm the same report. There was a gross politicization and manipulation of intelligence by the Obama administration intended to delegitimize President Trump even before he was inaugurated, ultimately usurping the will of the American people. I'm going to go over the key findings from the House Intelligence report, which investigated the claims that were made by an intelligence community assessment ordered by President Obama and published in January of 2017. First, Putin's principal interests relating to the 2016 election were to undermine faith in the U.S. democratic process, not show any preference of a certain candidate. In fact, this report shows Putin held back from leaking compromising material on Hillary Clinton prior to the election, instead planning to release it after the election to weaken what Moscow viewed as an inevitable Clinton presidency. In the January 2017 intelligence community assessment that President Obama ordered, John Brennan, who was CIA director at the time, and the intelligence community intentionally suppressed intelligence that showed Putin was saving the most damaging material that he had in his possession about Hillary Clinton until after her potential and likely victory. The report goes into great detail about the information that Russia and Putin had on Hillary Clinton, which included possible criminal acts like secret meetings with multiple named U.S. religious organizations in which State Department officials offered, in exchange for supporting Secretary Clinton's campaign for the presidency, significant increases in financing from the State Department. They also had documents that showed the patronage of the State Department to State Department employees who would go and support Hillary Clinton's presidential campaign. There were high-level DNC emails that detailed evidence of Hillary's, quote, psycho-emotional problems, uncontrolled fits of anger, aggression, and cheerfulness, and that then Secretary Clinton was allegedly on a daily regimen of heavy tranquilizers.
Let me guess. You're thinking about going to therapy.
Wow. Keep going.
Then CIA Director Brennan and the intelligence community mischaracterized intelligence and relied on dubious substandard sources to create a contrived false narrative that Putin developed a quote-unquote clear preference for Trump. Brennan and the IC misled lawmakers by referencing the debunked Steele dossier to assess quote-unquote Russia's plans and intentions, falsely suggesting that this dossier had intelligence value when he knew that it was discredited. The intelligence community excluded significant intelligence and ignored or selectively quoted reliable intelligence that contradicted the intelligence community assessment's key findings on Putin's alleged support for Trump. Including this intelligence reporting would have exposed the ICA's claim as implausible, if not ridiculous. The intelligence community assessment omitted reliably sourced information, such as how some Russian intelligence officials were quote-unquote planning for candidate Hillary Clinton's victory, while others assessed neither Trump nor Clinton would respect Russia's interests. As was reflected in the ODNI documents that we released on Friday, multiple intelligence community assessments released in the months leading up to the November 2016 election concluded that Russia had neither the intent nor capability to impact the outcome of the U.S. election. On December 5th of 2016, the FBI and ODNI gave the House Intelligence Committee its first post-election classified briefing, in which there was no mention of Putin aspiring to elect Trump by either agency. The Presidential Daily Brief, drafted on December 8th of 2016, stated that no Russian or criminal actors impacted vote counts. This document was pulled just hours before it was to be published due to quote-unquote new guidance. If it had been published, it would have been briefed to both President Obama and President-elect Donald Trump. On December 9th, 2016, a National Security Council meeting was called to gather President Obama's senior national security officials, which included CIA Director Brennan, then Obama DNI James Clapper, Susan Rice, and others. Following that secret meeting, DNI Clapper's assistant sent an email to the intelligence community with the subject line, POTUS tasking on Russia election meddling, tasking ODNI leaders to create a new assessment per the president's request. The House Intelligence Committee Oversight Report that we released today reveals that, quote, unlike routine intelligence community analysis, the intelligence community assessment was a high-profile product ordered by the President Obama. It directed senior intelligence community agency heads and created an intelligence community assessment limited to just 5 analysts using one principal drafter. This is not something that occurs in the normal path of producing an intelligence community assessment that reflects the views across the intelligence community. The production of this intelligence community assessment was subject to unusual directives directly from the president and senior political appointees, especially the former director of the CIA, John Brennan. The House Intelligence Committee Oversight Report also shows how later that same day, on December 9th, Brennan ordered the publication of quote-unquote substandard reporting on Russian activities, which had previously been withheld from publication of prior assessments because the information was judged, quote, to have not met long-standing publication standards. Some of the information later used in the Obama-ordered assessment over the objections of veteran CIA officers was, quote unquote, unclear or from unknown sources. The Intelligence Committee's oversight report reveals that CIA Director Brennan overruled senior CIA officers who challenged the Obama-ordered intelligence assessment, stating, quote, we don't have direct information that Putin wanted to get Trump elected. Yet, the Obama-directed assessment was published on January 6, 2017, which explicitly stated, quote, we assess Putin and the Russian government aspired to help President-elect Trump's election chances, when possible, by discrediting Secretary Clinton and publicly contrasting her unfavorably to him, end of quote. The CIA and FBI, then led by John Brennan and James Comey, expressed high confidence in this judgment, while the NSA expressed moderate confidence. Yet, as the report we released today shows, the ICA, the Intelligence Community Assessment, did not cite any report where Putin indicated helping Trump win was an objective. The opposite is true. With regards to the Steele dossier, we now know that one of the source documents that the Obama administration used in the creation of this intelligence assessment in January of 2017 was none other than the discredited, unverified Steele dossier. The House Intel report states, quote, contradicting public claims by then CIA Director Brennan that the dossier was not in any way incorporated into this intelligence assessment. The dossier was referenced in the intelligence assessment's main body text and further detailed in a 2-page assessment annex. John Brennan lied, and he denied using this dossier in this intelligence assessment that President Obama ordered because he knew it was discredited. It was a politically motivated, manufactured document. He directed senior CIA officials to use it anyway. CIA officer told the House Intelligence Committee staff as they investigated this, quote, the director of the CIA, John Brennan, refused to remove it, and when confronted with the dossier's many flaws, responded, quote, yes, but doesn't it ring true? Even the bipartisan Senate Select Committee on Intelligence report published in 2020 criticized the FBI's handling of the Steele dossier, noting its completely unverified nature and purposeful sidestepping of intelligence community procedures in its use. Now, President Obama, Hillary Clinton, John Brennan, James Clapper, James Comey, and others, including their mouthpieces in the media, knowingly lied as they repeated the contrived narrative that was created in this January 2017 intelligence community assessment with high confidence as though it were fact. John Brennan, as CIA director, stated in a memo to his agency staff in December of 2016, saying, quote, there is strong consensus among us on the scope, nature, and intent of Russian interference in our presidential election. This was reported by NBC News, confirming that Brennan, along with James Clapper and James Comey, agreed with the CIA's assessment that Russia intervened to help Trump win the presidency. As Obama's Director of National Intelligence, James Clapper was tasked with overseeing the creation of this assessment in January of 2017 by President Obama, and he expressed confidence in its findings. In a 2018 interview with the Harvard Gazette, he talked about how he provided Trump with the same classified assessment that President Obama received, which included the high confidence judgment that Putin directly ordered the hacking and election interference. Clapper then went on to add, I think they, the Russians, actually influenced the outcome.
Tesla is finished. Elon has failed.
Brief summary of the details that you'll find within the House Majority Staff's report in their investigation into the Obama-directed January 2017 Intelligence Community Assessment that leads us to the very same conclusion that we announced in the release of our documents on Friday. The implications of this are far-reaching and have to do with the integrity of our democratic republic. It has to do with an outgoing president taking action to manufacture intelligence to undermine and usurp the will of the American people in that election and launch what would be a years-long coup against the incoming President of the United States, Donald Trump. Thank you.
All right. Now, if what Tulsi Gabbard and the report is true, what they say is true, then I don't want to hear anybody ever again tell me about our exceptionalism and our system. Current situation is dire. You would expect this in, I don't know, Venezuela, China, Russia, Iran, countries like that, not in our beautiful country. Now, what do I believe? I believe that what she said is true. It's factually true. Reasons why. Do you remember who destroyed Tulsi Gabbard's political career? No, it was not Kamala blowjob Harris. No, it was Hillary Clinton. That's what happened. So Trump appointed her, nominated her. She got confirmed as a national intelligence director because he knew that she's going to go after the dynasties, two of them, and the other guys. So if this is not conspiracy theory coming true, proven being not a conspiracy theory, but being a conspiracy, and if this is not a corruption to the highest level, what is it? But this is only the first step. You acknowledge there is a problem. You found a problem. Now you have to rectify it. First, people responsible for this should be obviously paying some retribution, which for me is prison, if found guilty. Remember, if this is true, I tend to believe, as a free human baboon that I am, that it is true. I knew this or parts of this when it happened. Why? Because I wasn't listening to CBS or Fox News Necessary or CNN or all those guys who were peddling the same defense. And this is, remember, she said on two occasions, at the beginning and at the end, about the mass media, what role the mass media played. Not to inform us, but cooperated with the guys in charge. And they're supposed to expose them. That's why I call the American media as the operatives. They are the operatives of the system owned by those guys. The guys that you saw over there, mentioned, Clapper, Comey, Bannon, what's his name, Hillary Clinton and Obama. These are just the, how do you call them, the overseers of the system. They're not the system. They're not the ones in charge. They are doing their dirty job of other bigger interest and system forces. Now, I'm waiting for her to destroy, and probably that's the goal, Clinton's dynasty, which is Chelsea Clinton, who's going to be gone first, and the second one, Obama's. Obama's have two daughters. The Clintons have the ugly duckling Chelsea Clinton. She's not yet political, but she's got lots of money and a lot of people who owe the Clintons a lot of favors. So Obama, the first African-American president, all right, with Hillary in his wings or his whatever. So here it is, my friends. What will happen to Tulsi Gabbard? This is my prediction. I don't want that to happen. I like Tulsi Gabbard and maybe two more Democrats I liked. She's one of them. The other one was Dennis Kucinich, but Dennis Kucinich was fucked. Do you remember when she said here some religious leaders? Why don't you mention what kind of religious? Can you tell us? I can tell you definitely one. They offered money and campaign and support. What is that? Remember? They met the religious. I can give you those ones. Can I make it? Or whatever. You know exactly what I mean. So what could happen to her? I suspect that Tulsi Gabbard will be found in a swimming pool, an apparent suicide, drunk, dead, obviously, drunk with a lot of drugs in her system, like Marilyn Monroe. And it's going to be an apparent suicide, and that's it. Someone else said, no, I think it's going to be a car crash. I don't think it's going to be a car crash. I think it's going to be a helicopter crash, but I don't think they will use that way. Why? They need the body. They're going to have an autopsy. They have to destroy her character in order to say, oh, she's just crazy. Everything she said is crazy. Look, her stomach right here. The intestines right here. We find this, we found this, we have amphetamine, we have the methamphetamine, we have all that. And they will show us that she was a crazy, drugged up, enraged woman. That's what they're going to find out. And they will tell us that don't trust, that was idiotic. That was just in her hatred towards the beautiful Clintons. This is what I suspect will happen to Tulsi Gabbard. Courage? Yes, 100%. 100%. I hope it doesn't happen. Remember, she was placed on a, how do you call that list? Flight list. No flight list or something like that? Not no flight list, but whenever she was boarding a plane, Tulsi Gabbard, she was placed by these guys under, she always had a marshal around her and she had a clearance that she can fly and doesn't do something to the airplanes. Tulsi Gabbard. Now, it's not about Putin here. It could have been Xi Jinping. It could have been Tom Jones. I don't care. I don't care about is how this, and they keep using the word, nice euphemism, manufacture. All right, manufacture, no, put it differently. They didn't manufacture evidence. They faked, they falsified, they created. Look for a better synonym that they manufactured. It's beautiful. No, that's not the word. That's not the word. All right, my friends, here is the level of our democratic republic. Naked in front of you, and it's ugly. Put something on you, mofo. That's what it is. So I don't want to hear anymore all those professors out there who tell us about our great system and all that should turn into this and say, no, it's fake. It's a matrix. This is an oligarchy. That's what it is. Just a few rule. In this case, these are, as I said, just the overseers, the supervisors. These are the managers of us. With some, how do you call those? Perceived delusional liberties and rights they are allow us to have. Remember, if those rights and liberties came from the Creator, no human being should be allowed to infringe them or limit them because you can't take what you didn't give. Let's start with this one. So we'll see what's going on here. Next step, get all these guys, put them in a nice room, and then get them charged. And if you find evidence to convict them, get them in prison, and then destroy their dynasties. It's a war out there. And this, the only reason why we find out this, because it's a real war. Those guys, when they did, if true, what the report found, or allegedly found, right? If the fact that those guys did it, they didn't do it because they didn't know the next administration will not find out. Or the next. They thought they will play ball. Now they are rocking the boat. The system is rocking. Why? It's like in mafia wars. When it's mafia wars, then the police finds out who that is, and they connect the dots. The same here. You connect the dots, but the exposure of these mafia groups in our society, up at the top, the oligarchs, you don't have to have only money. You have to have the connections and power. With these guys, are exposed just because they are at war with a crazy guy, narcissistic guy, who has courage to the level of recklessness, which is Donald Trump. Donald Trump, I think, he fights for survival. That's what I think. I think he somewhere was allowed to be where he is right now. I don't think it's the American people who... Nah, I don't think so. I think he was selected and allowed in order to complete something for them. And in the meantime, fuck up other things. And this is one consequence. Maybe they didn't expect this to happen. But those guys over there, they don't care who is overseeing us, who's on top, who's our manager. They don't care as long as they are under their control. So it doesn't matter if it's Obama, it doesn't matter if it's Clinton, it doesn't matter if it's Trump, Tulsi Gabbard. If all these guys follow the directives, they don't care. And as long as they keep the modern economic slaves under control and happy consumers, they don't care who is there, what kind of system they have, and their media is their operatives. Thank you very much for being with me again today. Thank you very much, Tulsi Gabbard. Good luck. I don't know how I can help, but definitely she is, I think, in grave danger. Thank you very much for being with me again today. Stay strong, stay smart, look for the truth, and be just.